was some decent cosplay. Okay, I'll review it properly. The How to Train Your Dragon live action remake is out because, of course, it is. But why did they decide to remake one of the most perfect films ever made?
Here's your matcha chai boba oat milk latte, ma'am.
Finally. Hey, what are those Disney dudes doing?
It looks like they're making a lot of money.
I like money.
Remaking their classic animated films in live action, but not as good.
And people pay to see them?
Mostly.
We should do that too. I will say this, unlike most of the Disney live action remakes, How to Train Your Dragon does not distort or disrespect its source material. Oh, spoiler warning, I will be getting into plot details, so if you haven't seen How to Train Your Dragon, the original animated one, well, first rethink your life choices, then go watch the film, then come back and check out this review. In 2010, the world was blessed with How to Train Your Dragon. It is a magnificent piece of storytelling, perfectly bringing together character development, multiple plot threads, stunning animation, and a moving soundtrack in a way that makes it worthy of the pantheon of all-time great films. I have nothing to criticize about this movie, and it deserves all the thumbs up. How to Train Your Dragon is a very rare unicorn in that it's better than the children's series it's based on. A lot better. Quite often when books are adapted into films, the result is about as pleasant as a dirty diaper, and book lovers hold their noses and try to get away as quickly as possible. The exact opposite happened here. This book was a diamond in the rough, and it was transformed into a perfectly sparkling gem. I'd really love to gush about how much better the animated version of How to Train Your Dragon is than the books written by Cressida Cowell, but I'll have to save that for another day. Today I'm just reviewing the remake. So did they mess it up? No, there's clear respect for the original, and in many cases it's just kind of a shot-for-shot remake, except the animation has been swapped out for live actors, green screen, and 3D animation. The costumes look amazing. They kept all the big goofy horned helms, the giant shaggy cloaks, and just really made everything work. The sets and props are gorgeous as well, and I can only imagine how fun it was for the cast and crew to step into such an immersive setting for a story. The main plot hasn't been touched, although some unnecessary stuff has been shoved in. The story remains a Bildungsroman. That's a fancy word which means a coming-of-age story in which a young person discovers meaning and purpose. A young Viking named Hiccup at first wounds and then befriends a dragon, ultimately healing not only his community, but also his relationship with his father. And he gets the girl. Like I said, the new version of How to Train Your Dragon is in many places just a shot-for-shot remake of the original, although the animation has been swapped out for human actors, green screens, and computer graphics. This means it just kind of has a little bit less energy. You can do things in animation like exaggerating the features of characters and making their movements a little more extreme, and you just can't really replicate that with actual human actors. It would look odd and strange. The special effects are very nice, although it can get a bit green screeny when the humans are interacting with the dragons. When something's an animated film, there's absolutely no difference between the characters, and so they interact seamlessly. And yeah, you did just kind of get that feeling in a few places where you can tell, the actors, they're doing their best, but they're just jumping onto a mat in front of a green screen, and then the explosion is filled in behind them, and it lacks that connectedness, maybe that's the right word, that the animated film had. The only returning cast member is Gerard Butler, who lent his excellent voice work to the role of Stoic the Vast, and now appears in person as the Viking chieftain. I was really looking forward to this because Gerard Butler has had 15 years to settle in with this character, and it's fun to see an actor so comfortable in a role. In particular, his scenes where he's talking to Hiccup are very moving, and it's clear he's had a long time to reflect on the father-son moments in the films and really make the most of them. Stoic the Vast is the kind of man that we should all look up to, and it's been wonderful to see how Gerard Butler has developed this character over the years. There's just one thing that left me a little disappointed. Going from animation to real life will always mean some differences, such as, again, the less exaggerated physical features and movements, but it should be possible to get the costume right, and you will notice that in the original film, Stoic the Vast did not wear clothing with sleeves. In the remake, Gerard Butler has sleeves. In fact, he wears a lot of clothes. So many clothes. I don't know why this change was made. I was really looking forward to seeing Gerard Butler. Like, seeing Gerard Butler. I just don't know why they took that away from me. Sorry, got a little thirsty for some reason. Nick Frost took on the role of Gobber. He's less funny than Craig Ferguson, but he brings a bit more depth to the part and even postponed knee replacement surgery until after filming wrapped so that he could have an authentic limp. I can respect that kind of dedication. His work as a hairy, gruff, but supportive mentor bodes really well for his future work as Hagrid in the upcoming Harry Potter series. Jay Baruchel is a very tough act to follow, but Mason Thames does a great job, once again giving a less funny but more grounded performance as Hiccup. He's a kid with an expressive face, and he has clearly put in the kind of work needed to be a physical performer. Bad actors think that acting is just something you do with your mouth and your mind, but great actors know that it's something you do with your entire body. And when I was watching Mason Thames in this role, I couldn't help but be reminded of a young Michael J. Fox, who used every single cell in his body when performing. This kid shows a lot of promise. He really looked and acted like Hiccup brought to life, and I hope this is the beginning of a long and successful career. I can't say as much for Hiccup's classmates. The animated version of the show had the advantage of being able to hire great voice actors, not having to worry about their ages or what they look like. In live action, the voice and appearance are a package deal, and this group put in generally weak performances. Nico Parker plays the live action version of Astrid, and her work is okay. But unlike Mason Thames, it's very clear she's not a physical performer. That wouldn't matter in a lot of roles, but Astrid is a character who is extremely athletic. I couldn't help but notice in this remake, every time Astrid needs to do anything other than talk, the camera cuts away to a stunt artist or a computer replacement. There's also this unintentionally funny part with a theme they shoehorned unnecessarily into the story where Astrid joins in with the other kids of like mocking Hiccup for being a Nepo baby and getting everything because he's the son of the chief, which doesn't really make sense because he certainly hasn't gotten anything from being the son of the chief. He's like still the butt of all the jokes and he's still the lowest ranked Viking in the village. But it had to have been really weird for Nico Parker to deliver those lines because she's the well-connected daughter of a film producer and an actress. There's also a few other bits of unnecessary story padding, like I did not need to know that Snout Out has daddy issues. There was only one change to the film that I found genuinely irritating, but thankfully it was brief. In recent years, Hollywood has changed the way it does funding and eligibility for awards. You have to pass a checklist of diversity requirements or no money or Oscars for you. So Berk is now no longer a remote Viking village, but a place where dragon hunters from all over the world have gathered to try to wipe out the monsters. That's not necessarily a problem, but the way they did it was super cringe. The racially diverse, gender-balanced band of Vikings gathers in the Great Hall so that Stoic can go around the room and patronize the women of power one by one. He literally goes,
"You, women who's missing a leg, are a mighty warrior.
And,
You, women from Asia, are right braw at everything.
and,
And you, women from Africa, are just super. Go on your sail, hen."
And now the film has done a diversity so it can get funding and be eligible for awards. Yay. Now that the boxes have been ticked for positive representation of woman, disabled, Asian, and Black, these characters are dismissed and have nothing to do with the story ever again. This scene was patronizing and stupid and unnecessary. Like, it's good to want the world to be a place where nobody's held back because of who they are. And I want to see all kinds of interesting stories about all kinds of interesting people. But when you have this checklist approach to filmmaking, it either means there's some stories you just can't tell because, look, not all stories are diverse and that should be okay. But you either have to not tell those stories or you have to like shoehorn in these scenes. When I was watching this, I was reminded of that really dumb moment in Avengers Infinity War when there's like the big battle going on. And then all of a sudden, like 5 or 6 female characters get together and they're like, "We'll handle this." Like I'm supposed to care about that. There just happens to be a bunch of women on the screen. I'm supposed to fall down all over myself and go, "Oh, thank you, filmmakers. Thank you. I feel so seen." Like that's not how this works. Work characters naturally into the story and make them interesting people doing interesting things, and people will like them. Don't do this thing where you just like kind of glue them on to another story to be like, there, we've done a diversity. Funding, please. Other than that, the only real difference between 2010's animated How to Train Your Dragon and 2025's live action is that while the animated film really was a true all ages story, this is really more for teens and up. The animated dragons were cute. They're now scary. Toothless looks great, but he seemed to me to have less personality. When the first film came out, I had a cat named Loki. He had black fur and green eyes, and he was adorable and funny and really, really stupid. Other than the stupid part, he resembled Toothless in a lot of ways, and I have to say that while the computer graphics on the new Toothless do look good, I just didn't get those fun Loki vibes this time around. I give a Snape score to films based not on how good they are, but on how closely they interpret the children's books they're adapting. I'll do a deep dive comparison at some point, but I'd rather use the 2010 animated film for that because I just think it's better. Either way, both films have a low Snape score of 1 out of 5 because the film adaptation of the book series was very loose. Was the live-action version of How to Train Your Dragon necessary? Not really. Was it badly made? No. Was it a safe bet and will it make lots of money and spawn a bunch of sequels? You betcha. Would I have liked it more if Gerard Butler had been allowed to take me to the gun show? Definitely.